Alrighty, folks, I see a few people starting to pile in right away here. If you have questions for me on this Q&A right away, don't be shy. Get those right into the questions panel or the comments panel, and I'll get right to them. If not, it's going to take a minute before I go into any further introductions and let people come in here. Sometimes it takes a moment to get up to speed with the numbers, everybody logging in. So again, if you have any questions for me right away, don't be shy. Get those right into the comments panel for me. I'll get rocking right to those. If not, I'm just going to take a moment here, let folks file in, and then I'll get to anything and everything software and market related. Try to keep it as informative as possible and relevant as possible while I wait for other questions to come in. So again, folks, I'm just going to give it another 30 seconds or so, letting folks pile in here. But if you have any questions right away, do not be shy. Get those questions in for me right away. Yes? Get those questions in, and I'll get right to them. Like I said, just giving another moment here, let people filter into this live Q&A here. So, all right, no questions coming in for me off the bat. But again, I'm going to continue to stress, get those questions in here if you have them, folks. I cannot answer the questions that are not asked. That's how this works, right? But, here we are on Monday, January 13th, 2025. And, we've got our first sell-off in a little bit here as far as the overall market goes. We'll jump into that, I suppose, for a moment here. Pull up a chart of the SPY. We can start there, and we can dance around to some other indexes as well. But again, I just want to throw out there, if you have questions, please do not be shy. Get those in here for me, all right? So, all right, looking at the SPY right here, like I said, we got our first little sell-off in a bit here. Last time we saw anything close to significant for a sell-off was back here at the August mark of 2024. We had this little pullback right here and this tiny one right here, but nothing really significant, and here we are now. We're feeling some pressure here for the first time in a little while. Where we bounce to, how this all shakes out. Of course, there's no way to predict. There's no way to know. If any of you folks are subscribers to the software or subscribers to our swing picks, I do a video the last couple of months, I guess it's going on now, and I do a market recap in it. We talk about how I've been talking about for a little while now, how bear markets aren't built overnight. COVID as the outlier, obviously. We only know in retrospect that it became one, right? And so we look right now at areas of logical pullbacks. As a technician, I prefer support and resistance. Other people are going to want to look at different moving averages or crossovers, things of that nature, right? When my eye starts to go to it starts to go to some of these logical levels here, and a lot of them will line up with whole number prices. I think a big reason for that is a lot of this is psychology in trading, right? Think about when you're putting the volume on your TV, right? When was the last time you turned the volume to 3, right? You turn it to 2 or 4 or 10 or 15. We like even numbers and multiples of 5 as humans for the most part. You never see someone turn their volume to 17, for example. Well, the same kind of idea here, 600, the SPY, it's a whole number here. It's a big deal. This 550 here, 500, and there'll be ones in between too. So those are some logical areas to start to look back for different pullback areas and possible support and where, price may dig itself in. And when we say price dig itself in, it would become the buyers battling the sellers to dig themselves in, that kind of thing like that. So I never like to get too ahead of myself. I don't consider myself a bull or a bear. I'm just going to want to follow price action right now. And clearly, the price action starts to lean towards a more bearish type of tape right now. And again, I want to stop for a second. Folks, this is supposed to be an open forum Q&A. So anybody with questions on the Trade Ideas platform, you just have a general market question, fire it away for me. Do my best to answer those if they're not Trade Ideas related. If it's Trade Ideas related, more often than not, I'm certainly going to be able to point you in a direction as far as that goes. Well, looks like my mic came undone. If someone wants to confirm for me, they can hear me again. I was just saying here on the cues, price has memory because people have memory. And so, we're looking at this 500 level and we can see how much price has touched it and coming back to it. It's a significant area. And oftentimes, these big touch areas, they coincide with a whole number like 500. And so that's why people often poke fun at technicians and say, technical analysis is, astrology for the stock market or whatever like that. And it's, it's fine if they want to poke fun at it or anything like that. But the thing is, it works more often than not, especially when you have a well thought out plan. And you're not just randomly throwing crap out there to see what sticks to the wall. James, looking to build a consolidation scan that picks up consolidation in the top or bottom 70% of the day's range. I believe, James, you and I have had some back and forths here in our email here. So, I just have to share with you what we discussed before in those emails, right? Everything's got to be done within the confines of the data points that we have. And as I mentioned, I mark these things when someone has something or is requesting something we don't have. I mark it as a request for our development and management teams to consider in the future. I get no say from there, really. There's a process that things go through. So, but, as far as we can do, we just have these data points that are within here. So, you can look at these consolidation filters here that we have, consolidation and days, position consolidation. We can come to the help document here. These aren't filters I generally use myself, but this is what we would have to work with in here as far as that goes. Excuse me. And then outside of that, again, we're, range, what we have here for range listed there, change. Again, what we have there, and position and range. So, we just have those items for you to work with there, James, and that's really it. We don't have a way to insert data that doesn't exist within the system. And, to head things off, that a lot of people always say is, well, why can't you just create the data point? And the reason is this. We have a back testing system in here. And so adding a single data point is a huge endeavor because of the back testing system. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes for us to create all these data points and then host them in history the way we do. For anybody that's familiar with any kind of tech, it's the mousetrap essentially, right? And the way the mousetrap is built has its goods and its bads. Now, one thing I would suggest here, and I made the suggestion before to you in the email, the best that we could really offer is in that change, finding a change on a time frame that's going to be closer to what you're doing. So for example, if we were to take, a 30-minute change here, and I would do something like this where, if I wanted to see something within a 2% range, -2 and 2. And then, it's show me stocks where the price is, up no more than 2%, is down no more than 2% flat over the last 30 minutes as well. That would be it on the consolidation stuff there for you, James. So again, anybody with questions, don't be shy. Please get those in here, right? As I will continue to say, I cannot answer the questions that are not asked, right? And James, if you have other questions, don't be shy. Get those in here too, right? If there's no other questions coming in, I'll just kind of get back to some market thoughts for a moment here. Diamonds, we'll talk about the diamonds, represent your Dow 30. This one looks a little more troublesome than the SPYs or the Qs. You had something like 9 or 10 days down in a row before we saw a bounce. That bounce was less than the bounce we've seen in the other ones. It's rolled over even more to this point. Again, this 420 level on the diamonds looks fairly significant. And so this is where one logical place to start looking for it to try to dig in. If not, at 400 doesn't become out of the realm of thought not too long from now, right? These are the kind of things I'd be looking at as far as the overall market. HOLX, yeah, we take a look at HOLX. HOLX. Not HOLC. Come on. Type better than that. All right. HOLX. Really rolling over here. Very volatile looking stock too. These topping and bottoming shadows all over the place. So, the first thing that comes into mind is I see us at that $70 level, and I see back here around that $70 level, right? Really, I guess it's more probably 72, 71 and change. So kind of really banging and piercing on that, after that, you're falling pretty quick down into these next levels down here. So, that's what I'd be looking at right here. Certainly really under pressure for the trade wave. Bounced up into it, but couldn't even get itself a buy signal on that bounce. Wasn't significant enough of a bounce to get a buy signal. It just remains in that sell down trend. One interesting note here is you've got this huge green volume candle here. Not sure, maybe there was some news that day. Then you see the volume really crater after that and then start to build back up again. So, and it's pretty significant looking to me. If there's a larger player at hand that felt like this was an area to go fishing in for some shares. I don't know that that's what went on there, but that is a really huge outlier. Going all the way back this way, that's a huge outlier. If we were to move into a weekly chart, we don't see volume like that until back into April of 2021, right? We get some stuff that's up there, here, few of them, but we got to go back to April 2021 to see volume like that again. So, certainly something to note here. I'll also say this, overall, stock really hasn't done much in years, right? COVID, the bounce out of COVID, whoopsie underneath that range, stayed in that range for a while, whoopsie underneath that range, stayed in the range, a little whoopsie underneath it, and it's back into that range. So stock just hasn't done very much in a long time, just been very, very range bound for a long time. And anybody else with questions, don't be shy, get those in here. As I often say, I cannot answer the questions that are not asked. You may hear me say that 4 or 5 times more before this session wraps up, right? So selfishly, I like these sessions much better when you folks are asking lots of questions instead of me just randomly talking at you. All right, with all that said, the last thing I want to look at here is the IWM. If we're going to just talk general stuff, IWM representing the Russell 2000 here, and a huge level, a level that I think that people were definitely had an eye on was this 220 level, right? This 220 level was significant going back a few years. Get rid of the browser interface because I can go back further a little nicer like that. So, this is coming out of COVID here, and that was an all-time high. And then let's move this line to 220. There we go. And then, bear market. The rest of the stock market came out of a bear market, and this thing just didn't really get going like the rest of the market did. So just, goes to prove we do not need the IWM for a bull market, right? It's nice to have it. We just don't need it. And then finally, this thing really started going the second half of 2024 and making a new all-time high here November, the end of November in 2024, before immediately giving it right back up. So, a 220 level is really big all the way through back here, all the way up into here. Will this be a whoopsie underneath and it digs itself in with the buyers? Again, time's going to tell. No way to predict that kind of stuff, right? But I think one of the things to keep in mind about the IWM is you'll find a lot more growth and very little value in here as far as stocks go, growth versus value stocks in general. And so when you're finding more people putting money to work in this, maybe you find a little less volatility in the IWM. You're going to see a lot more risk on taking, meaning people willing to sit through the pullbacks and not sell off versus people selling off at the first sign of any kind of trouble. Those are kind of things that I'd be looking at. The IWM I consider more of a barometer. New premium subscriber was the best layout to start my day. Can you give an idea about the layout you're using now? So yeah, best layout is a subjective question. It's like going to a restaurant asking what's the best, meal on the menu. If I tell you the sea bass and you say, well, I hate seafood, well, I guess that's not going to work. Same thing if I'm a swing trader and I tell you, the swing trading setup that I love, and you're like, no, well, I'm a day trader. Again, well, that's the best to me, and the other one, a different one's the best to you, right? What I can say is I can talk about my layout and different scans and things that we can do. And as a premium user, you also have unlimited back testing, which I always highly recommend to leverage. So what I've got going on here is this is a relative strength from the open scan that I've done, and it uses a Bollinger Band component in it to try to find stocks breaking out. This is a very similar scan, only there's no Bollinger Band component in it here. This is stocks breaking out over 10 days. These are just some random stocks that I've thrown on and off my liked list over time. Sometimes I'm using my liked list, sometimes I'm not. It's just a way it's like a watch list, essentially. There's nothing really going on here. I just have it there for display. This is a scan that I mostly use for swing trading over here, looking at stocks breaking out over 20 days. These are all scans that I personally created, but we have a lot of pre-done templates as well. We call them channels. And let me pull up a channel bar here. Bear with me. So, we're looking at, I'm going to move some stuff around a little bit. Let's do that. So, if, I go to new, we have a channel bar and a dock channel bar. Dock channel bar just means it's going to live everything inside a container window versus channel bar, everything's free floating. Then the dock channel bar and the channel bar of different channels than each other for formatting reasons and keeping things more simplistic and stuff like that. So what you could do is open a channel bar or a dock channel bar, and let me get rid of that drawing. We got some what we call channels right here, and a channel is a layout. It's a conglomerate of scans and charts. We can click more and we can see a whole different list of these here. And I would encourage you to maybe go through, look at some of the scans that are in here, what you think of them, and then you could pick some of those scans and add them to your own cloud, right? So what you could do is, I can't open a layout right now because I'll lose what I have here, but the same concept, if you opened a layout and you came across a scan, you say, what's in the scan? You could right click, you right click a scan, go to configure, you can go to Windows specific filters, and you can see what the filters are involved and if there's a minimum and maximum value, how they're impacting the scan. You use the show me function here to see. So, the 11 here, show me stocks where the price between 11, where the price is at least $11, right? You can edit these things, and you can take the scan and you can right click it, go to save or share to cloud. You could save that scan to your own cloud, and then moving forward, you could build your own layout out of all the scans that you decide that you like from any given channel by going to File, Load from Cloud, and you'll find anything that you've saved to the cloud in here for you to load. And also, once you've got a conglomerate of scans that you like, you've created a layout, you can save it as a layout a couple of different ways. Let's go over that real fast. File, save or share to cloud, and you click entire layout. You name the layout here and then save it, and you could open it from the cloud moving forward. And if you have a layout that you like, that you want, that's the opening layout every time you start trade ideas, you go File, Save Layout, and then you'd pick default layout up here and save it. And that will be the layout that opens every time you open trade ideas. That's kind of my short and skinny on building a layout in that regard. You can also just simply build your own scans, right? Three main scans that we offer are alert windows, topless, and the races, right? A multi-window is just taking alert windows and combining them into one consolidated window. It's a space saver, essentially, like that. So it's not, it's a scan, but it's a conglomerate of alert windows that are on their own individual. And then if I go to Chinese restaurant with 10-page menu, I ask the waiter their recommendations. Again, if their recommendation was fish and you hate fish, what are we going to do, right? But yeah, so I'm going over, this is where if I was a new subscriber, this is what I wish I would have had someone to be able to do for me as a new subscriber back however many years ago that was. Now, so like I said, my recommendation would be going through the channels and starting to look at the scans in there and the configurations of those scans and how they may or may not fit into what you are doing, right? And for the most part, if we look at the channels again, there should be some kind of guidance in the name of the channel, what they are. Pre-market, we're looking at pre-market scanning. After hours, looking at, the aftermarket momentum stocks, explosive winning stocks, unusual volume, unusual options, stocks going down, right? We're looking at sectors here. So more or less, maybe a few of them not as clear on what they are, like this enjoy the show. These are some scans that they're looking for big winners, but also that may go on to have a longer term catalyst, those kinds of things like that, right? Biotech, self-explanatory, so on and so forth, like that. So that's my personal recommendation, guiding you through the menu of trade ideas like that. But then I would encourage you to get in here, open an alert window, go to new, go to alert window, open alert window, configure, and check out in the search of the different items that we have here. And also, this is a big menu to pick from, right? But unlike a paper menu, we got a search in this menu that we can use. And so if you were thinking to yourself, gee, I want to, I'm in the mood I want to scan some stuff on RSI. If you type RSI, you're going to see what we return for RSI filters, right? You're saying to yourself, I want to build some kind of volume scanners on my own. You type volume, you're going to get a whole list of different volumes in here. Now, one real important thing to understand with alert menu or with alert windows, it's a two function window, right? So these single icons are alerts or events. This is a thing that happens, a new high, a new low, the check mark, inverted check mark, crossed above resistances, consolidation, so on and so forth, right? These are things that happen. And then bullish alerts are indicated by the green, bearish alerts are indicated by the red, and neutral is indicated by blue, right? Consolidation means neither bullish nor bearish, right? High volume doesn't mean bullish or bearish, right? So on and so forth. They could go either way with those things. So that's one component of building alert window. You pick an alert. I generally tell people, make sure, generally I think one alert is good in a window. But if you're going to do multiple alerts, you want to make sure that the multiple alerts that you're selecting are related to the filters, because the alerts will act independent of each other, but they work with the filters. And then filters are going to be indicated by these dual icons here. You got this tealish color and this purple color here indicating minimum and maximum values. And so you'd have an alert event, like let's say, for example, if we were going to build a high of day scan, right? We'd add this alert. We put a check mark here indicating we want that alert to be the alert functioning for this window. I'll just clear out the old stuff that I'm not using, right? And if we're breaking out, let's say on some volume, we might want to say, all right, I want a relative volume. All right. And I click that. I can add that filter. It takes me to the window specific filter tab. And I say, you know what? We got to have a relative volume of at least 5. And then we say, well, we want, let's see that 1 minute volume. And so this 1, 5, 10, 15, and 30 minute volumes, they work on a 10-day average of percent, where 100 is normal, 200 is 2 times, 300 is 3 times, 400 is 4 times, so on and so forth. So, we want to see the stuff's kicking around real good. I want to see 750 on that, right? At least that. So 7.5 times what it's normally doing, right? And then I say, well, maybe I want some kind of price range on this, right? So type PRICE, and we can get that price. We can add that filter here. And I'm saying, I want to see stocks that are in between $4 and $150 max, right? And so this would be the beginning of building our own alert window to complement anything off the quote menu of the channel bar. There's a number of things that we could, again, go through and add here. This in an alert window, it's a little over 500 data points, I believe, that are in here. You're not expected to know them all. Nobody uses them all. But if you have questions on anything, for example, what does volatility mean? What does that do here? You could select it, press help. You're going to get a web page here. And it's going to go over the definition of that for you here and some examples of how it could be used in a scan and what it means and so on and so forth. And so it's a good way to really get familiar with the software and the data points, just kind of going through an exercise of building out a window, an idea that you may have. Now, you looking for recommendations from the menu, I'm going to put a few, we can share scans via the cloud. And so I'm going to throw a few scans in here right now, the links to those. And you can go ahead and click those links and then, save them, load them how you want. And I'm going to go over each one of those scans as, things that I use and do in here. Maybe you're going to find of help and maybe not, but at least it's a good exercise on how to share and going over those things. So first one I'm going to share is my evening scan. And I use this for my swing trading. I've been using this scan, since 2020 or so. Pretty consistent going to the well on this one. So we're going to go over this first. I'm going to come into the configure. And in the configure, we'll go to the window specific filters tab. And I'm telling the scan, I want to find stocks that are $11 or more. They traded at least 750,000 shares on the day. They have a relative volume of 1. Relative volume works on a ratio. So 1 is normal, 2 is 2 times, 3 is 3 times, so on and so forth. It's a 30-day ratio or a 30-day average of that ratio. Then the position in 20-day range, I want to see stocks that are 75% above their 20-day range. 75% above the low of their 20-day range or more. So I want to see stocks that have maybe some potential breaking out over 20 days. And then the position of the range of the day, I also want to see that they're 75% above the low of today. So I want to see stocks that have closed weak. My idea behind the scan is I do this scanning towards the end of the day when the market's getting ready to close, let's say 3:30 Eastern, give or take, and into the evening to find strong setups for the next day. When we're in a nicer tape for the overall market, I'm more likely to take something as the market's closing if I really like it versus wait for the next day to see if the setup holds to and through for that next day. That's just my own personal preference for that. So that's what I'm looking at on that kind of scan. You know, I'm trying to find things like, I want to get rid of the tree map view on this here. Let me see if I can find some stuff here that I like. Bear with me, because I want to give you an example of what, so this would be a chart that I like right here. Someone would say, well, why do you like this chart? And I would say, this is why. We've got a nice uptrend going on, right? Now it's not, you know, straight trend line like that. It moves up, right? Consolidates, moves up and pulls back, right? And then it moves up and it pulls back and consolidates, and it moves up and it consolidates with some real volatility here, right? And it moves up, pulls back, it's moving up again. But what do we see here? What's the underlying, right? We are seeing nothing but higher lows right until we got to here, right? So is this a whoopsie? We'll find out. What else are we seeing? We are seeing higher highs right up until here. But if this thing can show some strength and get back above this level and challenge that high again, that's a really interesting looking stock to me as far as a swing trade goes, right? So this is the kind of thing that I'm looking for with this scan right here. This would be a bread and butter. In fact, I haven't been using my like list very much, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead and like that with the heart right there. And then something you may find helpful. So I have this my liked list here, and what I did is I took a blank top list. I'm going to show you exactly how to do this here. I went new, top list, and in there I made sure there's no filters. I'm not using any filters in here whatsoever. And then on the sort, I wanted to just see stocks that are up the most from the prior day close. So change from close and a %. I selected that and I put sort by, and that brought me to sort tab. So I'm sorting these stocks here. And then in the symbols list tab, instead of all symbols, I went to add existing list. This is in alphabetical order. And I went to my liked. Where is it? My liked personal right there. And I put a check mark in there, and I make sure the drop down says only the following lists. So now only stocks that are on that my liked list will show up here. And it's just a good way for me to track those kinds of stocks like that. And so, you know, these are duplicates of each other because they're exactly the same, but I want to show how that works. And you can go ahead and take stocks on and off with the heart right here. There's just one thing. Sometimes a server refresh isn't always brilliant about this. So when you go to like and unlike something, just maybe, you know, you hit the heart, go to account, reset connection once or twice. If you go to unheart something after you unheart it, same thing, go to account, reset the connection once or twice, just to make sure that it clears the list here for you properly. So that's one scan that I really like as far as swing trading. Another one that I like, if you're a swing trader, let's stick with swing trading stuff. Also, folks, you know, I see there's, you know, roughly 80 people here watching. You know, there is the YouTube link to get into this. So if you're on Twitter and you're watching, you know, come into the YouTube side of thing and ask questions if you have questions, folks. I'm here to answer questions. So, you know, I don't feel like you just got to sit there and you can't have a back and forth with me. There is a chat here for that. So feel free to come into that. Now, yeah, let me share another scan that's swing trading. And this is a dual purpose scan here. Most of my swing trading scans are dual purpose, and I'll get into that in 1 second. So this is my position lifetime range scan. I'm going to share a link to that first. And let's bring over that scan, and now let's go over what we're doing in the scan. So we come to the configure and we come to the window specific filters. I want stocks that are $8 or above. I want them to have traded at least 1 million shares on the day, relative volume of 1, and they got to be 85% above the low of their lifetime range, right? So I'm looking for strong stocks right now that also do some trading. I don't want to see strong stocks that trade 10,000 shares a day. That's just not my cup of tea, right? And then, you know, we got a list like this. Now, this list serves as a twofold here. when this list is looking real empty, I'm feeling kind of bearish, right? And when this list is looking real full, I'm feeling kind of bullish, right? And it's kind of in the middle right now of things. And, the other thing I try to look at is the columns that I have here on this. So the position and lifetime range. So you got PDX, whatever that is, the thing's, 34% above its all-time high, 31% above its all-time high. PTLE, it's at its all-time high. These guys are around their all-time high. And then, as we scroll down, we can see here where they are on that all-time high range. And so the more we see up here towards that 100, also the more bullish. So I use it kind of, let's call it a market sentiment type of scan, in addition to trying to find, quality setups with this, right? And then, we're going to get stuff that I'm not going to care much for. I'm going to guess this PDX, there's going to be something I'm not going to care for in this. Let's move this around a little bit. Yeah, so, this thing is just shot off to the races. Like, there's no way, I'm not trading something like that right now. It's having itself a day, and someone that was in it, good on them. But, clearly I'm not going to get involved in something like that. IT, CI, and probably something similar to this here. It's also some kind of fund. This looks like a buyout here, right? This is going to be a garbage stock, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I knew it was going to look like that. I'm familiar enough with that. PTLE, maybe this will give us something quality. And this is what I do. I go through charts. So, all right, this is a little more quality looking. It's a newer issue, obviously. So, we do have to contend with that. But in the face of the overall market, looks okay. BKR. I thought it was Baker Hughes. So, energy is... energy's been strong recently. Everybody's seen the price of oil. That's paying attention to the Merck exchange there. And we'll be feeling that at the pump sooner than later here. It's a good looking chart right there. And someone say, well, why is that a good looking chart? Well, let's draw a line where we see a lot of resistance that's gone on, right? We got this base we've broken out of now. The gap. We came down. We couldn't fill that gap, and we started taking right back off to that right there. So lifetime high 45.17, that was made right here on Baker Hughes, and so that continues to look real strong for me anyways. Someone else may look at that chart and say it's no good. This is the kind of things that I'm doing, and those why I would share those scans with you. Boston Science right here. Another good looking chart. Again, why is it a good looking chart, Chris? Well, look at that trend. That's a beautiful looking trend right here, right? No serious pullbacks. And, the most serious of pullbacks is that right here. We had this go on there, but that wasn't part of really the market pulling back, right? And then as the markets pulled back, this has really held well. And, here we are looking at some positive movement on that again. So, these are the kind of things that I'm looking for. And this is where the work of trader comes in. And, we got these scans to give us some ideas. We got to go through the ideas here and see what does and does not fit what we are doing here. So now, I know you said you're a swing trader. So those are two of my main swing scans. I'm going to share with you a day trading scan. You like it, great. You don't like it, that's fine. I would just want to go over something different than just the swing trading scan. So let me find it and share a link, and then I'll go over it. Shared. Copy. There we go. And so that's this scan up here in the top right corner here. And if we look, so all stock races are top list at their core. So we open the top list here and I look in the configure of it. We're going to see that I'm looking at stocks between $2 and $30, trade at least 400,000 shares on the day, 85% above the lower band. And then I got this little volume metric in here just to make sure the stock is mostly actively trading. I don't want to see stocks that trade, 20,000 shares in a block. They don't trade for 40 minutes. They trade another 15,000 shares in a block, and they'll trade for 20 minutes and trades another 30,000 shares in a block. I want to see things that people are participating in. And while 400,000 isn't necessarily liquid, if something's getting going, I want to see it as it's possibly getting going and make a decision from there. Do I think it's really got legs, or is it, just giving me a false start kind of thing? So that's what I'm doing there. Then once the scan finds those stocks that meet that criteria, I sort it on the change from open because I want to see the stocks that are up the most from today's open. I don't care if they gap down and they're reversing. I want to be able to see that kind of thing. And then the juice of the race comes in the race setup. I right click and go to the race setup. I'm running 3-minute races that can be edited. The reason I run 3-minute races, I used to use 15-minute charts for my day trading. I've since moved to 5-minute charts, but 3-minute races, it was 5 races would equal a 15-minute bar. Since I made the move to 5-minute charts, I've continued to like the 3 minutes. It's fine. It doesn't, hasn't had any negative impact. So I encourage people to experiment with that, how they see fit. And then I'm basing the race on a total cumulative of what's up from the open the most. And then the descending here just means that we're in a descending order from the biggest to the smallest up from the open like that. And then the stocks just simply race against each other more than less. And we get a winner circle or finish line here, and it shows for me the top 10 winners and how many times each one of those top 10 have won. We could also right click and I could just show all winners, and we can scroll through and see every stock that's won in order for the races. So that's, what I'm doing there with that. And then, this makes a nice watch list over here. Maybe you got something that was real strong early on, it pulls back and you want to set a price alert to this. So let's just say, for example, this was something I was watching and I thought to myself, gee, you know what, if this gets $8 again, maybe I'm interested. So set a price alert around $7.90. Wake me up if it gets back up to that price because I could be interested again. So it makes a very nice watch list in that regard as well. Now I'll say this. This scan here, the My Evening one that I shared and went over, I shared this with a prop trader a couple of years ago. They were looking for a swing trading scan. They wanted to get into swing trading aside from the day trading they were doing. And they took the scan and they said, gee, I don't really get it as a swing scan. It works for me as a day trading scan. Beauty's in the eye of the scan holder, right? I created it and been using it at that point for a couple of years as a swing scan. Had okay success with it, they took it and they saw it more as a day trading scam. So go figure, right? So I could say even with this scan here, though I have it for day trading, you might look at some of these and say, gee, does this have some juice going into that next day? Some people are going to like that kind of mentality. Others won't. A lot of stuff that comes from here is very volatile and, kind of tough to hold into the next day, but everybody has different risk appetites and trading plans and so on and so forth. So how can I utilize RBI, GBI in relation to the AI trades? So there's no, the AI is the AI on its own. Holly is all on its own. It alerts to stocks that meet its criteria in real time, and that's the end of it. It makes the alert, gives you a stop, a suggested stop, and from there you decide. There's no way to feed stocks from anything else into Holly like that. What you could do is use the trade wave, though. If you look here, you see these blue buys and orange sells on my charts like that. So we could take RBI, GBI window. Where the heck are you? We take, let's say, a 5-minute RBI, right? Of course, there's nothing in there right now. Let's open a couple of these and see if we can't get an alert to come through on one of these. Just bear with me one moment here, folks. All right, folks, thanks for bearing with me for a moment here. All right, so we've got these RBI, GBIs we were talking about, relating to the AI. Well, you can't do anything necessarily with the AI with them. We go ahead and use the trade wave here and try and identify some trends with that on different time frames. And the trade wave works like this. It's a EMA cloud. So we're trying to identify trades with the crossover on the cloud and get these buy and sell signals, and it'll work on any stock on any time frame. And so, for example, FWRD, we can see we've got the RBI, the RBI here on the 5-minute chart, and we've got this going on here. And for those who don't know what RBI means, it means red bar ignore. So in this case, this was considered to be red, and it's ignoring that here. So we got the alert here on the close of that candle right there. Indicates bullish is what it's supposed to do. And then RBI would be, or GBI would be green bar ignore, and the opposite like that. So that's where I'd point you as far as that goes. Now with Holly, let me get rid of these now that I got an alert or two there. Now with Holly, you just have the alerts that come through on the day here, and you could line those up with a trade wave as well. That may help you. For some people, a lot of Holly alerts will be on the more volatile side, some not. A lot of the components of Holly look for stocks with high relative volumes in them. So, keep that in mind, that the higher the relative volume, a lot of times the higher the volatility is going to be as well. And then let's see here. I got a video on Holly. Maybe you want to take that and bookmark it for the future here. After we wrap up here in this live session. So it's a Holly video I did not that long ago. I go pretty in depth on that here. So there's not really much configuration to do with Holly. You're just going to find it. You'll go new, premium AI strategy trades window. This one right here. All right. And that'll give you the window that I've got there. I just opened it as a duplicate. There's a number of things that you can find in here. As far as columns. So if we right click and we go to columns, there are different data points that we can put in here. The right side is your master list. The left side is what you're displaying. And so you can add things by clicking on it on the right and moving it with the arrow to the left like that. And if you don't want to see something, vice versa, click on it on the left, move it back to the right to the bank. You can create a hypothetical portfolio on this here. So you're going to see I've got this max profit column, and that's based on if I was risking $100 per trade. And so to do that, we would go tools, options. I'm going to get a window that looks like this. We go to AI trade size, and then you'll see risk based on stop loss, right? And so that is set to 100 for me. You could do this where you could take, hypothetical, I'm taking 100 shares per trade, or I'm taking $100 worth of stock per trade, whatever you want to do right here. The risk based on stop loss, a lot of traders are always risking the same amount of money per trade. So that's why I went with that for that option right there. I see you got some bells coming in for me. How create the second chart from the top? The second chart from the top. The second chart from the top. Do you mean this chart here? You see that? Are you talking about this one here? And excellent. I'm glad you find this helpful. That's right. I like to hear that. I really appreciate the feedback to know that I'm, getting on the right track with any users. Yeah. So this chart here, all I did was this. I went to, new on the menu bar. And if you open up a chart, it's going to have some defaults, whatever you open it up as. But then we can set things up the way we want it. So I could right click and I come to indicators, and I can add whatever indicators that I want here. So in the case of that chart here, this around here, I have in the editor, I have a VWAP in here and an 8 EMA and volume, and that's it. And so, if I click on volume and I go to modify colors, I use the use up and down colors, and I set the up color as the green. I set the down color as the red. I pressed OK, and then just hit save here to save whatever you did like that. And, if I want to change this EMA, for example, if I decided from now on I want to use a 13 EMA, I could change that to a 13 here and then just press save. If I wanted to just get rid of the EMA altogether, I'd highlight it and just press remove. And if I want to add anything, I'd add it right in here. And, for example, if I wanted to add an SMA, I can click on the SMA, can modify the colors, that whatever I want, and then I can set the periods as well. And we can put it in the chart area that we want. This is the main area here. We can create a new chart area, so on and so forth with things like that as far as the charts go. If you don't see it here in the indicator manager, we don't have it as an indicator. So we got a good amount of indicators. We don't have everything. There's always something someone wants that we don't have. We do try to add things to the charts here and there, probably adding 1 or 2 indicators a year at this point. And that would be the short and skinny part of the indicators of the chart. Now, if you, with alert windows, top lists, and charts, if you have like a default setup you want to always open to when you're opening a new one, you could, once you get it set up the way you want, you could right click and go save as default, and everything you open that you saved as a default will open that way each time. So I want to give you an example. If you go to new on the menu bar and you open an alert window, unless you change the default of this already, you're going to open where it's going to be called breaking out on volume here in the window name of the summary tab. And the selected alert is going to be a new high, and then you'll have some like filters that are already filled in here. I didn't want to have that when I opened a new alert window each time. So I went in and I changed things around. I like the crossed above resistance. So I picked that as the alert. I made these blank here. And then I just set the columns to be these couple of columns for every default, every time I open a new alert window. And so, I removed columns I didn't want. Again, we moved from left to right to get rid of them. And I can add new columns by searching in here on the filters, selecting it, and then just pressing show column. And then once I did all that, I right clicked it and just hit save as default. And that's what it was. It was that every time moving forward from there. So that's the short and skinny on those kinds of things like that. So let me know if that answered your question. Let me know if you have other questions. Yeah, and one of those things with this, having a lot of questions, it's easy because there's so much with the software you can do, right? But it becomes like a domino effect. Like as you get some of the basics down on build, what alert windows do, how to build one, a top list, some of the charts, stuff like that. It's like dominoes. The stuff starts to fall into place. Also, I get the picture, or I get the feeling that you've got some time in the market and some software knowledge. So I have a feeling you're going to have a very quick learning curve. You're going to kind of get this down very quickly. We do these at noon Eastern every day. Also, there is our traders room too. If any of you aren't in the traders room already, Barry, he doesn't do an open Q&A like this, but he can answer questions. If you pop a question in there, he'll answer it for you, for sure. So if you're not in the trader room, don't abandon me yet, but here's a link for the trading room. And, and when I say trader room, people might get like kind of funny, like, there's no stock recommendations going on in there. There's people talking about different market thoughts and stuff like that, but nobody's saying, hey, everybody buy this or everybody sell that. None of that nonsense is allowed to go on there. Barry's sharing a screen, he shares scans, he goes over different stuff, he'll answer questions. It's, a pretty good community vibe in there. And it's actually where I learned the beginning of trading, because I don't have any finance background. So it's where I started, was that trading room long before I came to work for Trade Ideas. So, Barry's a total class act. There's a number of folks in there. They're class acts as well. Yeah, I think, I really believe if you just a couple of these sessions, a couple of days inside the traders room, I get the feeling you're a fast learner. You'll have this down in no time. So if you have more questions right now, continue to ask them, and I'm happy to go over those as well. And the same goes for anybody else in here, folks. Please, I really, really encourage anybody with questions to ask those. Again, I see a number of folks that are watching through Twitter. Feel free to use the YouTube link and get in here and ask some questions of me before I wrap up here. Usually I finish at 1 o'clock Eastern, but if there are questions, I'll stick around a little longer than the 1 o'clock Eastern. So again, please don't be shy, folks. Excellent. I don't know. There's a couple of us that rotate doing this, so I can't say for sure who it will be tomorrow, but there will be someone here tomorrow. Wednesdays, recently anyways, our CEO Dan has been doing Wednesdays, so it's been an interesting takeover there. He has, he's in the lab, as far as the new stuff that's coming down and things like that. So it's nice to have him do it and give that kind of insider view the way he does, not to mention it's his baby. So, as far as knowing the software, Dan is the top flight. But again, folks, I'll stick around a few more moments if anybody has questions. Last couple of weeks that I've been doing these, I've been sticking around an extra 15, 20, 30 minutes with questions. I'm happy to do that. Just pop those questions in here and I'll get them answered for you. So, all right, nothing else coming in at the moment. I'm going to start to give the auctioneers countdown. Though again, as always, I'm happy to stick around, answer any and all questions regarding the Trade Ideas software here. But if not, I'll call it going once. And again, if you folks aren't in the traders room, you're doing yourself a disservice. You should really be there. Here's a link for that again. It's free traders room. Even if you're not a Trade Ideas subscriber, you can join the room, see the software live, ask some questions, get a feel for who and what we are as a company. Going twice on the last call for questions here. I always say this, especially for newer folks here. One, you got to be patient, not just with the software, but trading in general, right? If this was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? And that's how it works. So treat it like a business. This isn't a job. You're going into business for yourself, and being a business owner is much different than just being employed, right? All right. And going 3 times, no questions. So, all right, folks, I'm going to wrap it up for the day here. As I mentioned before, myself or someone else will be doing this tomorrow, 12 Eastern, open forum Q&A. Like I said, we do it every market day. So we look forward to having you each and every day, getting those questions in and having a great back and forth. So I thank you all again very kindly for joining me for the hour. And I will see you again sometime later this week. I'm sure of it. All right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.